I don't think we talk often enough about how lonely happiness can feel sometimes. Not sadness, not grief, happiness. Because there are moments when things are actually okay, maybe even good, and instead of enjoying them, you feel this quiet pressure to do something with it, to capture it, to frame it, to make sure it counts. And the moment you start thinking about how to present joy, it slips through your fingers. That's what I want to sit with today. Not loud joy, not obvious joy, but the kind that doesn't survive the spotlight very well. Welcome to Unmasked, where we take off the filters and get real about faith, failure, and finding freedom. I'm your host, Wesley Farnsworth, a dad, veteran, author, and a man who's learned that God does his best work in the middle of our mess. Each episode, we have honest conversations with people who've walked through addiction, pain, or doubt, and with pastors, leaders, and everyday believers who are learning to live and lead authentically. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and let's get real. This is Unmasked. Right now, we live inside the highlight reel. Even when we're not scrolling, it's still there, hovering in the background of our thoughts, like a low-level hum that we've gotten used to hearing. A measuring stick we didn't ask for, but somehow keep using anyways. You don't have to feel jealous for it to affect you. Sometimes it just leaves you tired, emotionally worn down, like you're always slightly behind, even when nothing is technically wrong, because everything looks finished, polished, and certain. But real life almost never feels like that, especially when you're inside it. Joy especially. Joy is fragile. It doesn't like pressure. It doesn't like being evaluated or compared. It doesn't respond well to being watched. And yet we've turned it into something performative, something to display, something to prove. There's an unspoken message floating around that says, if it mattered, you would have shared it. If it was real, people would know. So joy becomes another achievement, another signal, another way to show that you're doing life correctly. But here's the paradox. The more joy becomes something to show, the harder it becomes to actually feel. See, I don't think that social media makes us fake. I do think it makes us distracted, though. Distracted from our own interior lives. Distracted from subtlety. Distracted from moments that don't announce themselves loudly enough to compete. We start narrating our lives instead of inhabiting them. We don't just experience something. We step outside of it in real time and begin evaluating it, how it looks, how it lands, how it might be received. And over time, that changes the questions that we ask ourselves. We stop asking, am I content? And we start asking, does this look like contentment? That shift is small, but it's profound. Because once the question becomes about perception, joy stops being something you live inside of, and it becomes something that you manage. And management always costs more than it gives. The problem is that performance doesn't stay confined to social media. It leaks into work, into friendships, into faith, into how we live and go about our lives. We start treating joy the same way that we treat success, something that needs to be maximized, leveraged, turned into proof that we're okay. If things are good, we feel pressure to show gratitude in the right way, to package happiness so that it makes sense to other people. And if things aren't good, we hide them. Not because we're dishonest, but because we don't want to be a burden, or awkward, or out of step. So we self-edit. We smile a little longer than we feel. We move past heaviness too quickly. We tell ourselves it's fine, even when it's not. Performance doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks controlled. Something that I've noticed in my own life is that moments that stay with me the longest are rarely the ones that I documented. They're the ones that happened quietly, the ones that didn't feel important enough to interrupt. A laugh that surprised me, a moment of calm that showed up without explanation, relief that didn't come with answers. Those moments didn't announce themselves. They didn't ask for attention. They just existed, briefly and honestly, and then passed. And maybe that's why they don't survive the highlight reel very well, because the reel wants clarity. It wants resolution. It wants emotion that can only be named and summarized. But real joy doesn't always cooperate with that. Sometimes it's blurry. Sometimes it's inconvenient. Sometimes it shows up while the other things are still unresolved. And when we don't trust those moments unless they're witnessed, we lose something important. We stop believing our inner life is enough. This is when joy starts to feel like pressure. There's a strange guilt that comes with happiness sometimes, like you're supposed to do something with it, use it well, make it productive. If things are good, you should be grateful, visibly. If you're not celebrating publicly, it can almost feel like you're wasting the moment. So we turn happiness into something that we manage. We think about how long it should last, whether it's deserved, whether it makes sense given everything else. And instead of resting inside of joy, we hover over it. Performance is exhausting, even when it's positive, especially when it's positive, because you never get to exhale. You're always maintaining it, always checking whether it's still convincing. And eventually the joy starts to feel like work. And that's when you find out what the quiet cost is. See, this self-monitoring does something to us. We stop trusting our own emotional signals. We begin filtering feelings automatically without even noticing that we're doing it. Is it still worth sharing? Is this impressive enough? Does this say something good about me? And when joy doesn't pass that test, we dismiss it. We overlook contentment because it's too ordinary. We ignore peace because it's not exciting. We chase intensity because it photographs better. Slowly we forget what joy actually looks like in our bodies and what it feels like. Not excitement, not adrenaline, not relief, but the steady, grounded sense of being okay where you are. There's a kind of joy out there that refuses to perform. It doesn't show up on demand. It doesn't arrive on schedule. It doesn't care whether anyone else sees it. It usually appears when you stop producing something, when you stop narrating, when you stop optimizing, when you stop asking whether this moment is enough. That kind of joy feels fragile at first, almost shy, like it might disappear if you reach for it too quickly. So you learn to be gentle with it. You don't grab your phone. You don't explain it. You don't even name it fully. You just let it be. And that feels almost rebellious now. But there's a quiet truth in there that we don't hear often. Because joy doesn't need to be chased. It just needs space. Space to exist without commentary. Space to arrive without explanation. Space to leave without being mourned. There's a short line in scripture that hints at this. Joy is something that grows, not something that we manufacture, which suggests that joy isn't found by effort. It's found by environment. And maybe the reason that joy is so elusive right now isn't because it's gone. Maybe it's because there's no room left for it to breathe. Reclaiming authentic joy doesn't require a dramatic rest. Reclaiming authentic joy doesn't require a dramatic reset. It starts small, almost unnoticeable. It begins when you notice the urge to document something and you choose not to. When you feel the pull to explain the moment instead of staying inside of it. When you allow happiness to be imperfect, unfinished, and unshared. There's something grounding about letting moments remain private. Not secretive, just unclaimed. Because not everything meaningful needs an audience. Some things are meant to be lived and not validated. Living beyond the highlight reel means accepting that your life will never feel as cohesive as it looks from the outside. And that's not failure. Meaning isn't built from moments that look good in hindsight. It's built from moments that are lived honestly in real time. Your worth is not tied to your visibility. Your joy is not validated by engagement. Your life does not need to be impressive to be real. Sometimes the most honest thing that you can do is to stop performing happiness and let yourself feel whatever is actually there. Even if it's quiet, even if it's small, even if no one else ever knows. So here's an action step for you this week. Notice one moment where you feel the urge to capture joy and resist it. Let the moment pass without proof. Let it belong to you alone. And then later ask yourself, not what it looked like, but how it felt to keep it private. That question matters more than it sounds. Thanks for joining me today on Unmasked. If something in this episode spoke to you, don't let it stop with you. Share it with one person that God puts on your heart while you were listening. You never know whose breakthrough might start with a simple message from you. If you want more encouragement, want to work with me one-on-one, or if you're interested in having me speak at your church or event, you can find everything about me at wesleyfarnsworth.com. And make sure you join the Unmasked community by connecting with me on social media so that we can keep walking this journey together. Until next time, remember, grace is greater than your past, and real freedom begins the moment that you choose to live unmasked. God bless you.